Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon on this auspicious day. We got great weather today, and I'm really pleased to welcome Collin Morikawa to the interview room. Collin, two-time major champion, coming out this year as #1 strokes gained tee to green, so obviously playing very well. You finished in the top 10 the last 3 years. What do you attribute your success to?
Honestly, I think it's just getting comfortable. You know, I tried to convince myself the first time I played in 2020 that you can come out here and essentially tackle this golf course of what it is, and I think I shouldn't have tried to do that. You know, I think the more reps you get in, the more you understand this golf course, how you play it, and how you fit it into your game, right? Everyone always talks about this is a certain type of golfer's the way to play this golf course and attack it. But I've found a way, I think, in the past few years of how to kind of dissect this golf course and really use my strengths, especially with irons and the undulating greens, to take that to my advantage and hopefully give myself a lot of looks.
Wonderful. Open it to questions. Dan?
I know you're not a huge golf history buff, but have you thought ever about the career Grand Slam? I mean, you're halfway, and obviously Rory's in here, and he gets asked about it, but is that something that's on your radar?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, let's see, I've been in the lead at the Masters last year. I mean, a few years ago, even at Brookline, I mean, I think I was leading through 36. Yeah, it creeps in. I mean, if it doesn't creep in, then you really don't care. You know, for me, you care, so you want to know, and you want to put yourself in these positions. It doesn't always work out, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you want to try and accomplish. I do fully know how hard it is, but it's not like, you know, one of them I haven't played well. Like I've been close, so it's just keep knocking out the door.
Chris?
Collin, over here. Sorry.
Oh. Tom.
Sorry in advance for bringing up a little bit of a sore subject, but your comments at the players on, you know, you don't know the media anything, got a lot of attention, a lot of criticism that you seemed upset by. The conversation around that whole situation was, oh, professional golfers in comparison to other athletes from other sports are soft or sensitive when dealing with criticism. Do you think that's a fair or unfair assessment?
It's an interesting way to put that question. I'll answer it in a few pieces. So one, I was not upset by it. I think everyone took it in a wrong direction. You know, I said it in my second media thing. I could have said it differently, but I stand by what I said, right? You know, like I was in the moment. You know, we talk about giving people space to be who they are. And at that time, it was for me to be who I was, and I didn't want to be around anyone. I didn't even want to be around my wife. Like I said hi to her after, we hugged. And I just went straight to the locker room, right? So in that aspect, I'm not, I think there needs to be a balance and an ebb and flow between everything, right? I do want to be here for you guys, but here's the thing. I've been in the top 5 in the world before, and people don't come up to me and ask me questions. So if you guys, you can't just ask me when I'm playing well. Like you guys should be asking the top 10 players every single week, every single day, and just document it, Then you get a sense of who we are, and you get a flow of how that comes to be, right? But if you're only asking me, look, I've been in the top 5 for however long, in my career. I mean, there's plenty of times where media doesn't ask me. So there's a balance, right? If you guys don't want to ask me, then it's not my job to go out and tell you my story. Sometimes it is, right? But you do that through social media. You do that through playing well, winning tournaments. But not everyone's like that. So that's what I don't get, this whole, So I stand by what I said.
Do you read comments on social media at all?
I mean, I browse, but I don't live and die by them.
Next question, Doug.
First of all, going back to what Dan said, why aren't you a history buff?
I don't know. It's just not really my thing. I think some guys love it, and I appreciate it, but it's just not, I know where things stand and that. I just never got into it. I always like kind of the present stuff and what's going on today.
You know who won the '86 Masters? Let's move on.
No. I was looking at the board in the gym today. I was looking at how many times the years Jack won it when he was spreading that out. I was really hoping you would give me like seven. I think you wanted like 72, 76, around there. I would have said that.
75, 86.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Well done.
Good.
Seriously, what I wanted to ask you is what's the recovery time like here when you walk out of here with a close call? How much time do you spend looking back at what you could have done better, and then what's it like when you return?
Honestly, I think it's never ending, on courses that we play every year. A lot of the places we play the same time, I've kind of been to all these golf courses. I don't think it ever stops, the recovery stuff. I think you look back and you're like, oh man, what could I have done different this year? What could I have done different in a year that you've played well or won or been in contention? Because it just always brings up the memories of some good, some bad, right? And last year, I think I was in a place where I didn't feel like I was in control of my game. And then you get to 9 and you just try and pull off a shot that, one, you should never hit it there, but just, I didn't feel like I had full control. So that, I look back at last year and a lot of it was, how do I just make do with what I have? And you can win tournaments like that, but if you're really trying to win the Masters, you want to be a little bit more in control of your golf game than, me spending hours on the range trying to hopefully find something. It can click, but I'd rather be in the position where I have a little bit more control and you go out and if you execute the shots, then you give yourself a chance to win.
Paul?
Kind of going off that, at Bay Hill players, you're incredibly bullish on where your swing was, the control you felt. Been a couple weeks since then. Do you feel like you've maintained that as we reach the Masters?
Yeah, and it's sometimes tough because sometimes you find something that doesn't work, right? And it might work for 2 weeks or a week, and then you kind of go off after that. I feel like I've found just a lot has to do with my setup, just like basic things, just making sure one, I'm aligned properly. Even at Players, I kind of got away from just aiming a little bit too far right with my driver and things kind of get crisscrossed up. For a lot of the top players, it comes down to just basic stuff because our swings are in a good enough spot most of the time. And that's just hammering down on those things and trying to do that. But yeah, everything has felt good over the past few weeks.
Charlie?
Collin, since the 2023 Zozo, you've played as good of golf as one can play without winning a tournament. Should have won the Tour Championship were it not for starting strokes. Does that come with a sort of an added pressure, or is it more of, look, I'm due, I just got to get the right set of breaks, and eventually I'm going to win?
Yeah, I said it even going up into Zozo. At that time, I had not won, and my game was not feeling as good as it does now. For me, I know it's going to happen. It's not like I'm never going to win. Hold on. This is wood, right? I believe it's going to happen, right? And I don't want to just win once. You want to go on a run. You hear JT, I think, talked about it at the end of last year, earlier this year. It's you want to go on a type of run that Scotty has. And I believe that. Whether it happens or not, so be it. But I fully believe that in myself that I can do that. It's just, you just got to keep doing what I'm doing, right? I'm not searching for anything new. A couple putts drop, a couple shots hit a little bit closer. That's how you win golf tournaments, right? Sometimes you blow away the field, and those are great. But it's the ones where you're in the grind that you just need essentially one shot on that Sunday to go your way. And that sometimes flips the switch. And I think I've been a little bit too much in cruise control. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, right? And I think you have to learn what type of player you are. I like when things are elevated a lot, just because it gets my focus in a lot more. Sometimes when it's just a little bit too mellow, I just sink in a little bit, and that's on me.
Brody?
You were always pretty open. There was kind of a 2-year stretch where you weren't fully confident in your swing, and obviously now you are in such a good place. Is there anything that maybe you learned about how to handle right now from that year, those years where it wasn't as confident?
Well, I think you always have to be ready on Thursday. I always talk about that. I always say that, no matter how your prep is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you just have to be ready to play golf on Thursday. And I think I take a lot of that out of those last few years where things weren't good, but then you just play with what you have. And I think we've played golf long enough where you could figure that out, right? It's just, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of us are perfectionists, I am, but you have to learn how to get out there and just say, okay, I'm gonna hit this shot and just make do.
Dan?
I've seen a lot of players play really, really good golf and then change a lot in their golf game, whether it's, a swing coach. I wanted to ask you, because you had your swing coach, and then you went to another swing coach, and then you went back. How do you balance that never-ending urge to get better with not trying to change what's already working?
It's really tough. It's really, really tough because we're always searching for new answers. We're searching for a new way to hear it. But, I can't always say like, oh, you go back to the old. I think a lot of us be like, oh, yeah, if I could pick this out of my 2019 game and then pick this out of 2020 and do that from 2021, I'd be the best golfer in the world. Well, it doesn't work like that, right? Life moves on. Like your body moves on. You as a player moves on. You keep playing more tournaments. You get a lot more mature that way. But there also comes, a lot more scar tissue. And a lot of veterans talked about that when I came out. It's like, or you talk about that with any young player, right? It's like they don't have scar tissue. Scar tissue might not be the right word, but it's just, you have more experience. And sometimes experience is good and sometimes it's bad. So when you're searching for these answers, I don't think I'll ever find like the right answer and how to be that, because my body just keeps changing, right? Every day you wake up, and that's why golf's so hard, because you're hitting so many types of shots and it's never in a vacuum that you just don't know if it's actually what you're doing, right? It's all just kind of feels and guesses. So it's, it's a never-ending search. I mean, you're gonna continue to do it because you want to get better. But what I realized through that little process was, I could have all the answers, but once again, I've got to go play golf. Like playing golf is the most important part, and that creativity, I think a lot of people have lost, or that's just not how they play golf.
Adam?
Paint me a picture, if you would, of the difference in how you felt coming here last year versus how you feel this year and why it's different.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, like I said, I just sat on the range. I was searching for hopefully a consistent ball flight to where, if I aimed at the middle of the green, I wasn't going to miss it 10 times left, 20 times right, and just had no clue. But it's the same as like Hawaii, right? Hawaii at the beginning of the year, I had a lot of good practice and a lot of good work that I did in the off season, and I showed up. But I hadn't played a tournament for essentially 2.5 months. It's similar in that way to where I've come to the realization is no matter how good you feel, it does not mean you're going to play well. But you have to go out there and put what you have into a full game plan for Thursday through Sunday, right? So when I am playing well and I am feeling good, I can kind of narrow in that game plan, and you can attack a few more pins. You can be a little more aggressive on certain shots that you have. You feel a little bit more free out there. It doesn't mean you're going to play good, but you have to execute the shots, but you feel like you can execute them. Last year there was a guess on whether I could execute them. I did for, 65 holes roughly, but sometimes it catches up to you.
How difficult, or I don't know if difficult's the word, but how was it to have to call Rick and say, I want to get back together?
Yeah, it was never an easy, I left him for the first time, right? This was end of 23, right around the Ryder Cup. And, for me, started working with Blackburn, you go and win, you just think things are, here we go, right? And then early on in the year, not playing great, get through Bay Hill, get through Players, like miscut at Bay Hill in a short field. Players, I'm sitting on the back of the range, and I think sometimes you think you need more answers when you look back and you realize, you just go back to the basics and you just start fresh. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard to take 2 steps back. I don't think a lot of guys could admit that, they've taken 2 steps backwards. We always talk about that, but to actually do it and say, okay, yes, I like where I'm at or I don't like where I'm at, but I'm really going to take 2 steps backwards. And that's what I had to do. I had to start from the very basics of what we've done since I've been 8, essentially. I'm maybe not that young, but my golf game into college, and say, okay, what are the pieces we're going to not rebuild, but just fit back together, right? And kind of piece together and layer one on top of another. And the only way to do that is to essentially take 2 steps back.
Doug?
You haven't played in a field against Rahm and Waco and probably a couple others since Paris. and you get them this week. Does that matter to you at all?
I enjoy it.
Going forward?
Yeah, look, I think everyone enjoys it. All those guys were amazing to me. They still are. You know, we were very friendly out there. Look, I think the golf world enjoys seeing everyone playing together, right? I mean, I don't think anyone would say no to that. So, yeah, it's amazing how much we take for granted in life, I think.
By that?
Well, I mean, look, you look back at whenever Liv started and this whole debacle started, right? And back then, when I first turned pro, like, no one really complained, right? And we enjoyed it. But then this all happened, and then, you know, you take things for granted. You get my point? It's, you look back and you're like, man, like, we had it pretty good. You know, everyone always talks about money, and you guys, I think the money thing needs to, like, get pushed aside. Like, it's just being golfers, right? Being professional golfers, playing. So these weeks are special now. You know, you don't take them lightly.
Do you care one way or the other if they figure something out?
I think from my perspective, it's what's best for the PGA Tour. You know, I haven't sat in those meetings, and I know guys have sat countless hours, and I thank them for that. That's up to the whole board and stuff. You know, they'll figure something out, you know, whether one way or the other.
Charlie?
Collin, your sixth start here, experience is obviously at a premium, and you've played really well here. When younger guys or guys making their first start come to you for advice, you know, what are the sort of tips and tricks you give out about how to get around Augusta National?
I don't think anyone's come to me for advice.
It's a shame. What would you give them?
I'm not going to say it here.
Kyle?
Yeah, you've had a lot of success here over the years. I'm curious about how has your strategy of how to, maybe this is the same question, but how has your strategy in terms of attacking the golf course evolved over the last 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone always talked about you have to hit a draw, have to hit a draw, have to hit a draw. I hit one draw out here. That's a hook. It's on hole 10. I've, you know, learned how to prep a little bit better kind of coming into this week, knowing what you really need to be hitting well, right? You need to hit your irons really, really well. You need to have control of your irons. But I've kind of worked in this straight ball per se, you know, even if it's cutting 2 yards, like essentially a straight ball that I can start straighter. This year, you know, I played 13 holes today. I played a little loop out there. A few of the tee shots just look a little different because you don't have the trees. Like you know, not having the trees down the left side, you know, opens up the left. So you can play a few different tee shots out there now, just with what happened with the storms. But for the most part, you know, this straight ball for me is how I play this golf course.
You gotten more or less aggressive over the last 6 years?
I don't know. I hate the word aggressive because I don't think we're never just saying, oh, you know, F it. Like, I'm just going to go hit it 110% and I'm going to aim at every pin and I'm just going to, like, aggressive, I think is not the right word we use. But it's just, you're more strict with myself when I'm saying, okay, this is the shot I'm going to hit. If you end up 20 feet, great. You know, 20 feet sometimes is great out here, especially positioning where you are. And then there's other places, you know, other holes where you can attack. It's just, so yeah.
Paul, and then time for 2 more questions after that.
Following up kind of on the storms and what you've seen at the golf course, just what specific things have you noticed about what's different and what might be affecting how you play and what might just be kind of cosmetic?
Yeah, well, first, I mean, today was the first time I saw the course since last year, and it looked amazing. Like, it honestly, even after the rain yesterday, the fairways looked incredible. Like, they were actually skidding out, running out a little bit. Greens are still on the soft side, so when the greens are soft, it changes completely how you play the golf course, because, you know, you're ripping back some wedges on some holes, but I think with the trees, you just get a different view. You know, so I played the back 9, and I played 1, 2, 8, and 9. So, like, 2 is a, you know, good example, like I just said. Like, 2T, obviously you can't hit it left, but now you could almost start it a little left and have it cut back if I wanted. You know, I wouldn't have to play as straight of a ball. 9, same thing. Like, you don't have the trees crowding you. So the way this golf course is set up, it normally forces you to hit a shot, right? Most likely a tiny draw, tiny fade. You can't really work it as hard sometimes. But, you know, you lose a few trees, it kind of plays a little bit differently. Not a ton, but.
Adam?
Found a silver lining in not winning at Bay Hill?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't feel like I played awful, right? Like I've given up, like, you know, you go to Hawaii when I lost to Rahm, like John played amazing golf, right? Just to even give himself a chance. But I essentially said, here you go, right? Take it, and he took it. Bay Hill was kind of, Bay Hill is one of the toughest courses we play all year. Like, hands down, it is a top 2 tough golf course. So it's not like I'm going out trying to shoot 66 and being like, man, I didn't shoot 66. Like, I didn't play bad golf, but like I said, just things weren't clicking as well. And I think going back to earlier, the question of, I just get in this zone sometimes where I try and, like, you know, everyone always talks about being nervous and like ramping up too much and they have to calm themselves down. I'm almost the opposite. And that's what I've learned over the, you know, a handful of years of being a pro is I almost need to put more pressure on myself and ramp it up and get my heart rate going. Like, I'm better off if I were to just show up with a minute to spare and I didn't warm up and say, okay, go play golf. You know, and you just have to find that balance. But that's what I'm learning about myself. And that's, you know, that's the silver lining is I didn't play awful. I didn't play great. Russ made a great chip and, you know, ended up winning the tournament. And I handed to him. He played some great golf. I mean, he birdied the par 3 15, right? And then eagled, or par 3 14 and then eagled 16. Like, those are great holes to be 3 under. But like I said, it's just, you keep knocking at the door. Like, I'm not giving up tomorrow. Like, I hope to play a long, long time. So it's, you gotta learn how to lose and you gotta learn how to win. It's just part of it.
Going back to what you said earlier about taking things for granted, did you take for granted a little bit how you won 2 majors so quickly, how difficult it is to do that?
No, I didn't take it for granted. I mean, I know there's only 4 a year. It's tough, right? No, I don't think I ever took it for granted. I think after that, you know, I wasn't playing as good. I think what I took for granted was just like, you know, oh, golf's easy. Not that I made it seem that, you know, not that I told myself that golf's easy, but you just think, okay, you know, 2019 goes great, 2020, okay, keep it going, 2021. And, you know, what I've learned, there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. That's just part of life. That's part of golf. And you kind of try and smooth out those downs as much as you can. I think I've done pretty good. It's time to hit that stride and see how far we can go.
Okay, Brody, do you have one last question? Oh, so that's it. I wanted to thank everyone for joining on the press conference, and Collin, best of luck this week.
Thank you. Thanks, Anil.